Hey everyone, welcome to the lecture for module number 3. A quick overview of what we're going to be doing. We're going to talk about the different sections of the thesis, the formatting things, and then a couple of strategies for getting started. And we'll conclude with kind of a quick overview of APA so that you're aware of how the final document needs to be formatted. So real quick, a couple of things on Moodle for you. So I put a sample document up there. It's very short. It's only a couple of pages long, but at least gives you an idea of what a document should look like. I've also put another lecture up there about writing kind of in a way that doesn't require you to use quotes. Remember, that's something I'm happy to talk with you about. The final document really cannot contain quotes. It needs to be kind of done in your own words, and your goal here really is to synthesize and integrate the literature that you've found. And then the last thing that's also on Moodle for you is a document from the Department of Social Work that sort of describes each section of the thesis project. And that's, of course, what we're going to be talking about here in the next couple of slides. So for this module, what we're doing is transitioning from sort of draft number 1. Transitioning from the outline to draft number 1. Check the syllabus for when draft number 1 is due. Remember, that's something you submit to me by email. And you do have a couple of weeks to work on it. This module is a little longer than the others. And then keep an eye out for an email from me asking for either a check-in or update. And of course, I know I say this sort of ad nauseum, but remember, you're always welcome to consult with me if you have questions or you feel stuck or you're just not sure what to do next. Or if you just want to, let me know how, if things are going well, you can let me know that too. That would be absolutely fine. So let's talk about the different sections of the thesis here. And these are all sort of more thoroughly described in that project description document that I mentioned a second ago that's on Moodle for you. So the final thesis is going to contain, 9 different sections, and if needed, an appendix, which would be a 10th section. But it's going to contain a title page, an abstract, an introduction, a search process, where you're telling me how you located the 30 articles or minimum of 30 articles that you used in the thesis. Then the lit review, which is sort of the heart, or the richest section of the thesis. Then your discussion of how your thesis reflects all of the competencies, sections for recommendations and conclusions, and then a self-reflection portion where you're talking about what you learned, how you grew, how this sort of prepares you for practice, how it sort of prepares you to leave graduate school, enter the field, that kind of thing. And then, of course, your references. Not every thesis will have appendices or an appendix. It's really only if you feel as though you need it, or it makes your document stronger. So let's talk about expectations for length and things like that. Length is about 30 pages. And we'll talk about formatting here in a second. But so length is about 30 pages. About half of that is devoted to the abstract, the introduction, the search process, and the lit review. And then the other half kind of devoted to competencies, recommendations, self-reflections. Now that's a very, very general guideline, and it's going to vary an awful lot depending on topic, depending on writing style, that kind of thing. But I think given this list of things here, about half sort of devoted to the abstract, intro, search review, search process, and lit review, and then half devoted to competencies, recommendations, self-reflection. Again, if yours ends up being sort of more 60-40, even 70-30, that's fine as well. It's going to vary quite a bit, but I think this is just sort of a good way to think about it for now. Appendices, again, those are optional, but they would not count towards the 30 pages. And again, in all cases, without exception, I am always more interested in quality than I am quantity. So I would rather a shorter document that's well written, that conveys a lot of information, that shows your mastery and expertise of the material than I would a document that's just, super long or something like that. So clarity and quality, depth of understanding, that's what's important here. The quantity is not. This is just sort of a way to acclimatize you or acclimate you to sort of what you're going to be doing over the next couple of months here. So when we say 30 pages, let's talk about what that means. Times New Roman is the font. Note that this is different than what's expected of you in APA. When they went from the 6th edition to the 7th edition of APA, they actually changed the font, but we're going to stick with Times New Roman font. And actually, Times New Roman is actually a little bit bigger. It takes up a little more space than the default font, which is Calibri, which is what you see here. This is Calibri. So Times New Roman actually takes up a little bit more room. It has to be 12 point. The margins on the page have to be 1 inch on all 4 sides. Everything has to be double spaced, no more, no less. Your paper throughout should use lots of headings and subheadings to organize the paper. It should be left justified and 30 sources, again, as a minimum. Now, the sample APA document that I've put on Moodle for you, it has Times New Roman as the font. It's in 12 point. The margins are 1 inch on all 4 sides. It's double spaced. There are some example headings and subheadings that you can follow, and then it is left justified. And so what left justified means is that on the left-hand column, everything is sort of in a line, and it's indented from the left-hand column. On the right-hand end of the words, it will vary depending on what the last word in that on that side of the page is, and it'll sort of return as needed. The only thing that the sample paper doesn't have is 30 sources. It's just, the content of that paper is not important. It's only got like 3 sources or something, and I think one of them is an example. But it like I said, it at least gives you an idea of what the APA guidelines are, the formatting is. So here's how I recommend getting started on the thesis. So set up a document. Do all of the formatting, so the 12-point font, Times New Roman, double spaced, 1 inch margins, all that kind of thing from the previous screen. Set up all of the sections, so the sections that are here. Create headings for all of the sections here. So create your title page and then create headings for all of these different things, and list out the 9 competencies. The 9 competencies are available to you in either the MSW handbook or that project description document that I keep mentioning that's on Moodle. So create level 1 headings for all of the sections of the thesis. Level 1 headings are bold, uppercase, lowercase, and centered. So, like I said, set that up for all of those 9 sections, and then list out the 9 competencies in that competency section. I would then take your outline, and in the literature review portion of that document, I would create additional headings and subheadings in that lit review portion based on your outline. And then I would start by writing sort of at the beginning of the lit review section, start by writing just sort of a good description of the topic and the issue that you're talking about. A couple of other sort of additional strategies. So this is a first draft. This early work on the thesis document is really about getting words on the page. The editing, the proofreading, the rewriting portion of that is all going to come later. So one thing that I find helpful, again, when I'm working on kind of an early draft of the thing and of a paper, and the emphasis really is about getting the words on the page, I will actually write and rewrite the same paragraph just sort of over and over again in the same document. and then save that, and in the next draft sort of start removing things that I don't like. And so let me show you an example here. Now this formatting, let me just say right off the bat, this formatting is different. This is a grant application that I'm working on, and they're not, they don't adhere to APA, so so you can sort of ignore the formatting here. But one of the things I'm doing here is actually working on this same paragraph: an alcohol use disorder treatment that strategically employs multiple theoretically and empirically relevant mechanisms of behavior change, right? And then I say the same thing over again, but it's a little bit different. Then I say it a third time, and it's yet a little bit different. So I do this just to sort of explore the different ways that something can be said, and then I go back later and figure out what it is I want to remove. I ended up highlighting this paragraph because that's the one I wanted to keep, and I ended up removing this third paragraph and this paragraph here. So this particular document, what it turned into was this highlighted one, and then this fourth paragraph here. So again, it's all about sort of getting words on the page here. So a couple of strategies that I find useful for working on papers and might be useful to you. Write for 20 or 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Set a timer. Use the timer on your phone. There are apps in the App Store called Pomodoros. I think they're 25 minutes long, and it's essentially a countdown timer. So if you were to write for 20 or 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, after 2 or 3 weeks, you'd be shocked at just how much you have done. Notice I'm saying writing and not editing and revising. That's going to come later. So again, the emphasis here really is on getting words on the page. If you get stuck, work on a different section, like the reflection or the competencies, and then make sure you're alternating between reading additional sources and writing. So you read probably 12 to 15 sources for the outline. Now it's time to read sort of the rest of your sources and start to incorporate that into the writing that you're doing. So let's talk about APA. APA is short for the American Psychological Association. Typically when we talk about APA style, we're talking about the book that's sort of formally known as the Publication Manual of the American Psychological Association. The 7th edition was released in late 2019, which makes the 6th edition now obsolete. It covers just about everything you need to know in writing and publishing, and it's what our theses will adhere to. It's the format that our theses will adhere to. So APA uses an author date system. That's when you see in each sentence a person's last name or a series of last names, and then the year. That's the author date system. There are, of course, other systems that talk about or that use, footnotes and endnotes, things like that. You may have used those as an undergrad or in other parts of your education, but APA is an author date system. So the things that I think are most relevant are chapters 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8. In the thesis, you're going to want to pay attention to chapters 8 and 9, or 8, 9, and 10, I should say, because that's where you're going to get information about how you're citing different sources. And again, most of the sources you're using will be journal articles and books. So once you get that formatting down, it'll come much easier. So again, the formatting for us is Times New Roman, 12-point, 1-inch margins, double spaced. The references start on a new page. Headings and subheadings, again, are sort of appropriately formatted. Couple of spots that I find helpful. There's some example papers in the APA manual. Note that in this most recent edition, they did, as I said a couple of minutes ago, back away on the font. They changed the font away from Times New Roman. And that's sort of the only exception to the style rules that we're following. The inside front cover and back cover also have some handy reference spots for you real quick. But also, if you need it, the the citation styles with multiple authors is on page 266. And then there's a list of sources that are often cited on pages 314 to 316. I typically think this is easier than kind of the appendix. So when do you cite? You cite whenever a paper has influenced what you are saying in your paper. And in a graduate level paper, in a thesis especially, this means that cites are going to occur often. In fact, it will be fairly rare that you have a paragraph that has no citations. Most every citation, particularly in the lit review portion, will have citations. I guess you probably won't have citations necessarily in the competencies, and maybe not in the self-reflection as well, but you probably would have citations in the recommendations. You certainly are going to have citations in the lit review portion. So that's everything. Again, as you're working on this this first draft, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Give me a call, shoot me an email. I look forward to reading these first drafts. Remember, I'm not necessarily reading for quality, I'm reading for progress. So this really is about sort of getting words on the page. Good luck, and like I said, I look forward to reading those first drafts. We'll see you soon.